Welcome back to the Always Reading Book Club. It is your girl Kiki Reader, and we're going to do another standalone today. Now, today's standalone is by Sofia T Summers, and it's called Dr. Daddy. We meet Jake Dresden, and he's an OBGYN. He's watching the Mariners play with his best friend, Richard. So, Richard has a daughter. Her name is Rose Parker. Rose is about 21, 22 years old. She just graduated from college, and she's now working with her father. So, her father was a pharmaceutical rep for years, and he's just been promoted to vice president of the company. So, she's coming in as a pharmaceutical rep. Richard's wife, Rose's mother, she died about 5 years ago, tragically, and this was right about the time she was in high school. I want to say, yeah, she was in high school, so she was right about to go off to college. It was around that time. Um, Richard, of course, super depressed, and Jake really stepped up, was a really good friend to him during that time, especially when Rose went off to school. So we also find out a little bit about Jake. So he's in his early 40s. He's been married once. His wife left him after she'd had a miscarriage, and he wasn't as supportive as she needed him to be. So he basically threw himself into his work, and it just kind of, that was it. He still beats himself up about this to this day. Um, he knows that his ex-wife, she was a good woman, but he also says he kind of fell out of love with her as well. And he just kind of grew fond of her, and that was kind of it. So Rose brings out a vegetable platter for her dad because he needs to eat better. But she's also going to make him a burger and stuff like that later. So she asked Jake, if he wanted her to make him one, and he was like, if it's not any trouble. And she's like, of course it's not any trouble, I can do that. So she walks off. Jake's looking at her ass, and we find out he didn't start noticing her until she was an adult, like until she came back from college is when he kind of started to notice Rose. uh, okay. I mean, that's a lot better than she was in high school, of course, and you looking at her. So, okay. But still, he feels that it's wrong because this is his best friend's kid, and he shouldn't be looking at her. Well, Richard didn't see him looking at Rose because he's like glued to the television, but he winds up asking him, um, have you started, have you been dating anyone? This is Richard to Jake. And Jake was just kind of like, I'm really busy, with my practice and stuff like that. And Richard's just kind of like, you make time for the stuff you want to. And so he kind of says back to him, hey, it's been 5 years since your wife, passed. You know, are you seeing anyone? And that's when Richard wants to change the subject. And I'm like, and Jake was thankful because he didn't want to keep talking about that anyway. So then we switch to Rose's POV. We find out she's had a crush on him since high school. She compares every man to him. The boys in high school were too young. When she went off to college, they weren't sophisticated enough. They were too immature. Like, everyone has been based upon Jake. So she, of course, is worried that someone is going to come and scoop him up. He is, he's a rich doctor, and that's going to be her real heartbreak, is if someone gets him. So she makes the burgers, brings them out. Um, she overhears before she brings out the burgers. I meant to say this. She overheard there's going to be a charity ball in about 2 weeks, a costume charity ball. And so her dad's not going to be able to go because he has an engagement out of town where he's the speaker. And so now girl has thought of a perfect plan. She's going to swipe her dad's ticket, put on a costume, have her night with Jake. Her dad'll never know. And this way she can have her night of debauchery with him. We switch back to Jake, and while he's doing an examination of a girl, she's around 21, 22, same age as Rose. She's getting married, she's pregnant, um, and he's like wishing that he could have a family with Rose. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So it's super crazy that both of them are like desiring the other person, but nobody can do anything about it. So the mother of the girl is in there, and she, of course, was talking about not wanting to be called a grandmother. He's trying to be nice, telling her, you're still young and all this type of stuff. Well, all that did was make the mother, who probably already was attracted to him, but it just made her kind of try and shoot her shot a little bit with Jake. So Jake got out of the room pretty fast. So we find out he's got a nurse named Cecilia. She's the head nurse. And then there's another OBGYN that works there who's like his protege, Derek. Derek is about 31 years old. And he's a womanizer. But, as long as he doesn't sleep with patients, he deals with Derek. Cecilia does not like Derek. They do not get along. Um, Derek has accused Cecilia of having a thing for Jake. And that's why she guards him the way she does. And she gets upset by this accusation and she runs off. I don't know if that's a true statement or not, but the way she kind of ran off kind of gives it a little credence to me. So we switch back to Rose. She's in training. The name of the guy that's training her is Ollie, who's been at the company for years. She's making cold calls. She winds up getting hung up on. He just kind of tells her this is the experience. You got to get practice. You got to get rejected. You'll be able to come up with quicker responses as you go, but experiences is the best teacher, basically. So she goes up afterwards to meet up with her girlfriend Marley. They met in college. They've been best friends ever since. Marley's a free spirit. She's an artist. She took a gig helping kids with art at a camp, and now she's doing like this after school program with the kids. And now she's thinking about possibly going back to school to get a degree in teaching so she can teach art to kids. So clearly she enjoys it a lot. Marley knows about her plan to seduce Jake. And she, of course, asked her, are you really sure you want to do this? She says, absolutely. This is the only way I can have him. My father's not going to find out. He's going to be out of town. And, basically, I've set up this bulletproof plan to get what I want. So there is just no way that I'm not going through with this. We switch back to Jake, and Rose and her dad pop in, and we find out that Rose is going to be taking over some of his old routes. So being that he was a salesman for so long, you already know, and now he's VP, he had to be a successful salesman, okay? So him giving her some of he can't give her his whole route, but any portion he's giving her is going to be probably worth gold, right? And so that's why they're stopping by Jake's office. Remember, he's an OBGYN. This is also one of Richard's former clients. Well, yeah, now it's going to be Rose's because Richard's get promoted. So they go, and Jake gives her a little tour, takes her to one of the examinations room. She picks up the stethoscope. He tells her a little story about it. How before the doctors used to have to put their ear to a person's chest. And because, with hygiene being so awful back then, it was like in the 1800s, someone developed this stethoscope. And so she was like really close to him. He wanted to kiss her so bad, but he didn't do it. Cecilia busts in. She didn't know anyone was in the room, apparently. And then after that, they ran into Derek. And Derek, of course, he's all charming, telling her Rose how beautiful she is and all that type of stuff. And of course, this is getting Jake's blood boiling, but he can't say anything. So eventually, because Richard had taken a phone call, he comes back and they wind up leaving. And I was like, oh my gosh, poor Jake, boy was really about to lose it. We switch back to Rose and we find out that she was hoping the moment with the stethoscope he would have caved in and kissed her, but at the same time, she got this opportunity with him to be alone and didn't know what to do with it. It's like she could have also kissed him as well, but it was like she didn't know what to do. So she texts Marley and she leaves, telling her, meet me at the costume store. So Marley's there and she picks out this sexy cat suit, and she also looks at it as, you know what, even if he rejects me, it'll give me some type of closure, because then she'll know it's not just because of who her dad is, it's because he just doesn't want her, and that'll kind of force her to move on. So either way, she feels like this is going to give her her answer. So we switch back to Jake, and one of his patients just had a scare. They're a little terrified that they might lose their baby. So he, of course, says, you know, you just need rest. You know, he can't guarantee that nothing's going to happen, but he tells her, you know, we're going to do everything we can to make sure you have, you know, at least a healthy delivery. This, of course, makes him think about his ex-wife, the miscarriage, how he handled it. He's a bit in the dumps. Cecilia comes in. She knows he's not okay because she does know a little bit more about him than everyone else. And he tells her, you know, I'm okay. And then she asked him um, about the previous day, like, did I walk in on an intimate moment with you and that young lady? And he says, nope. And Cecilia just kept going, like, it really seemed like something was up with you, you know? So she says to him, you know, young girls can get certain thoughts in their minds and stuff like that, so you don't want to encourage it, you know? And he just kind of tells her, I would prefer to be alone right now. She felt a little hurt, but I'm like, why would you feel hurt when you're coming at somebody and you're basically trying to call them out on their shit, right? And right, but you're trying to tell them something, and then you act like you don't understand when they shut down and go, I don't want to talk to you. Yeah, like you don't get that. It's like you were poking at him, and then you're mad that he didn't want to talk to you anymore. I don't know. I'm starting to really think she has feelings for him, because otherwise this doesn't make sense. Like, I understand being protective of your friends, especially when you know your friends have gone through a lot and you're protective of them. I understand that. But it's like Rose wasn't doing anything. So is it because you see him showing an interest in somebody else and you ain't seen this in forever? What is it? You know, that's my little issue. I'm not feeling Cecilia too much, because I feel like she's just caught blocking. We switch back to Rose. Tonight's the night. Ollie sees the garment bag on her chair and he opens it up and he's like, oh, you're trying to have some fun tonight. So he kind of helped her out with the whole confidence thing. She didn't tell him everything, so he doesn't know who she's trying to seduce, but he still helped her. That was great. Marley is just concerned with the possible blowout, and that's what she's been saying to her all along, right? She's just like, are you sure you can handle this? At the beginning of the book, there was a prologue, which was describing the moment where we currently are now. So this is where she's gotten the hotel, she's getting ready. She has on this cat suit. She has a mask that covers everything except for her lips and her chin. And she's gone downstairs to this charity ball. She sees Jake. She's waiting for Cecilia to walk away so she can walk up to him and start the seduction, right? So now we're seeing it from Jake's point of view, where he's at the event. He is having a nice time. He's dressed up as a pirate. Cecilia has been stuck to him. She's like his bodyguard that he didn't ask for. Derek is there. He's dressed up like a cowboy. Um, he's flirting with the women. He's gonna enjoy himself. So then Cecilia has to go to the restroom, and while she does this, he gets up, goes to the bar, and this is where the mystery woman, as far as he knows, they start having a little conversation, little dorky joking, things she knows he really likes. And then they start dancing, and he's mesmerized with this woman. Then he feels bad because it's not Rose. Then he's like, I could just pretend it's Rose. So he's been feeling this way for weeks. So she's only been back for a few weeks, since she graduated from college. So since she's been back, he's been fantasizing about her. So this whole thing with him and Rose, aka the mystery woman, they're dancing, they're having a good time. She can feel this dick is hard. She tells him, I have a room upstairs. How about we go upstairs and I get to know you a little bit more? And he doesn't do normally casual hookups. Like, even if, like, the few times he's had sex since he's been divorced, he's dated the women. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't really do casual. But at the same time, he decides he wants to explore it. We switch back to Rose. She's waiting for him to give that nod that he's ready to come upstairs, and he gives it to her. So she sees Cecilia clearly looking for Jake. So she decides to take him through the thick of the crowd around to the elevators. And so when they get inside the elevator, she kisses him, and then he takes over and they just have this ferocious kiss. So they get to her room. She has the only thing she's had is the key. It was in her bosom. So she took it out, swiped it, and decided to try and do like a little sexy strip kind of tease. And so she slowly takes down the zipper, and she had to practice this a few times earlier because she wanted to make sure she, seemed confident, like she knew what she was doing. But we find out this is her first time ever having sex. This girl hasn't fucked anybody. She has been waiting for this man. I was like, okay, but he's gonna know you're a whole ass virgin. So you can act as confident as you want in the world, but girl, when he gets in, he's gonna know. He wants her to take off her mask because he's taking off his, but she's like, nope, it's just one night. I'm gonna be gone tomorrow, so there's no point. So then he has her on the bed. He eats her pussy. She's never had anything, so that was amazing to her. She came super hard, and then she thought she was seeing white. She came so hard. So she tells him how amazing that was, and then she was a little afraid that, like, her saying that might give away that she's never done it before. And I'm like, girl, like, a dude just wants to hear you say it's amazing. That doesn't mean you have no experience. That just means you're vocalizing that he's doing an extremely good job. Like, that has nothing to do with being a virgin or not. So he tells her, if you thought that was good, you just need to wait till the main event. So then he's out of his clothes. He's trying to take the corset off for her. It's gonna take too much. So he was like, screw it. She's gonna have to leave that on. So he can tell, of course, well, she's already super wet. You were down there eating anyway, right? So yes, she's super wet. But he can tell when he slides it in that, like, oh my gosh, she's a virgin. But I'm just kind of like, bitch, you a whole ass OBGYN. Why the fuck are you raw dogging a goddamn stranger? Like, what are we really doing here? So he realizes she's a virgin, and he starts to go, like, slower. And has to, like, really work it in to get it all the way in. He wanted to make it special for her. He was thinking about it being Rose, and how he would have loved to see her in the throes of passion. Then he felt guilty because he's like, it's not fair to the woman that's in front of me. I'm like, this is absolutely Chris is crazy. So then he's able to finally fuck her hard. She comes hard. He comes as well, but he comes inside of her. Again, you a whole ass OBGYN. You know how this works. Maybe she can't give you any type of disease, okay? Maybe, but god damn it, come on. So she cleans herself up. He puts on his clothes. She tells him pretty much, thank you for an amazing night. Um, she kisses him and he winds up leaving. So he goes back downstairs. Cecilia's still looking for him. She's all pissed off when she finds him. Like, where have you been? And he's just kind of like, I would have went off on her because I would have been like, why the fuck are you hounding me? Like, why do you act like I can't be out of your sight? Like, what the fuck is that about? That's weird. Like, come on. So, but he lied to her because he couldn't tell her where he really was, because then she really would have had an attitude. But again, why are you concerned with who I'm fucking? I'm just saying. So he just told her, I ran into an old colleague from medical school and they were at the bar getting caught up. And she's just like, can you take me home now? And he's like, why? Like, it's a party. Like, you like parties. Like, it's still bumping. Like, what's the issue? And she's like, I'm ready to go. So then she says something about getting Derek. And she says, Derek's, he's not going to need a ride. I just saw him going upstairs with two brunettes and going up the elevator. So he was saying, I might have to talk to him about being a little bit more discreet, but I'm just kind of like, he's single. Like, he's an OBGYN, yes, but that doesn't dictate who he fucks. You know what I mean? If the shit can, be brought into the building and it causes an issue there, then I understand it. Makes sense of why you need to talk to him because he fucking patients, or, the shit done came to the building. But if he's able to do what he wants and nobody, what's the problem? He's not committed to anybody. He may not choose to live his life the way you choose to live your life. You prefer something that's more meaningful. He may not. But you can't try and make people be you. Yeah, he may be your protege as far as being an OBGYN, but who you are as an individual, you can't change that part of him. I don't think that's fair. So that's not cute. So anyway, he takes Cecilia home. He gets his apartment, and he's back to that whole self-loathing thing of thinking, you're just destined to be alone. We fast forward 6 weeks, and our girl thinks that she's still on a high and, just being a nervous wreck and being terrified that Jake could figure out that it was her that night. So she's avoided Jake as much as she can. He comes by the house. She is nowhere to be found because she's afraid if he gets any type of sense of anything, he's going to know it's her. The fantasy's going to be ruined, and she can't have that happen. Well, on top of that, she's also been throwing up. Ollie, who's her colleague, he's over her actually because he's the one that trained her. He, of course, is like, what is going on with you? He's like, you keep bringing back up your breakfast, and she's saying it's just nerves or whatever. He tells her, you might need to go see a doctor, get that checked out. And then she thinks, we didn't use protection. She's not on birth control. So now she's freaking out because out of the whole plan, the thing she was worried about, the outfit, the confidence, girl was not thinking about protection. And so she messages Marley and it's like, meet me at lunch at this store. So they go down the aisle, and Marley's like, it's Jake's, right? Can it be anybody else? And she's like, nope, can't be anybody else. She goes in peace. Sure enough, she bought 2 tests, by the way, 2 positives. So she, of course, is terrified. She is pregnant. She's spazzing because it's like if her dad finds out that she fucked Jake, like, he's going to be pissed at her. Jake's going to be pissed because she tricked him. Like, it's too much. Everyone's going to hate her is what she feels. And she's terrified. Poor girl. So Richard wants to meet up with Jake at like this pub, and he wants to talk to Jake about the concerns with Rose he's been having. So they apparently were like really close. They got super close after his wife died. And so he feels the distance. She's hiding something from me, is what he says to Jake. He said, I don't know what it is. And Jake is like, okay, is she coming in late? Is she partying a lot? Like, are you seeing like large sums of cash on her? Like, what is it that's telling you that something's off? And he's like, I don't know. It's none of that stuff, but it's just a feeling. And so Jake is kind of like, listen, she's 21, she's an adult. Maybe she just needs some space. She's just figuring herself out, you know? And he tells him, don't pretty much stop spiraling. I know it's easier said than done to stop spiraling, but stop spiraling. Just give her some space at this point. She clearly needs it. Just give her that space. Now, Jake now wants to kind of run something past him, but he can't say it was him, right? So he wants to talk about the hookup with the, masked woman, um, and try and understand why a woman would want a one night stand to be how she lost her virginity. And the dad actually said some good stuff. He's like, you know what? Honestly, think about it. Men are taught when they, lose their virginity, it's like, rah, 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 good for you. Women are told to hold on to it, right? And so now people are kind of deciding what they want to do with their virginity. Do they want to wait? Do they want it to be someone they care about or someone that they don't care about, Because what if you already care about the person and then you have sex with them and it's fucking trash, right? But you care about the person, but now it's trash. So then guess what does look appealing? You screwing someone, right? And you don't know them, and if it is trash, it doesn't matter because there's no feelings attached. So there's different ways to look at it, and Jake was kind of looking at it in kind of an old type of process of thinking with it, of like it's supposed to be special, because for Jake, when he did it, it was special. He did it with his high school girlfriend. He loved her, and they did it. Now they didn't stay together, but he loved her and he wanted to be with her. But everyone doesn't, that's not everyone's journey. So he was thinking from that perspective. But once Richard kind of said that to him, it kind of made sense. But the way he said it to Richard was that he put it as the friend of his that doesn't exist, but the same one he told Cecilia about, an old friend from medical school. He said he ran into him at the masquerade party, and the guy told him this story and was asking his opinion about it. I mean, it kind of worked because, Richard ain't thinking like this is actually Jake that this happened to. But that's how he was able to frame it when he talked to Richard. So during this conversation, Jake comes to the realization even more so that, you know what, whatever I'm feeling for Rose, I just got to let that fall to the wayside because I can't lose my friendship with Richard. So we switch back to Rose. She's been really off when it comes to working her calls. It's been pretty bad. And Ollie notices, and of course it's like, girl, what's going on? And she just says it's a personal matter. And he's like, okay, I understand that, but something's going on with you, you know? So he takes her to the break room and she spills out everything that happened. And Ali says, okay. He was like, do you ever wonder why I never got that basically prime real estate route that your father had? And she was just kind of like, well, no, she never thought about that. And he says, well, he does tell her a lot of people are kind of upset that she got that route. He tells her he's going to be heading up the Seattle office and he's going to need staff. He wanted to uh, get, hire locally, but because he didn't want anyone to have to move from here because they're in Tacoma, by the way. I don't think I ever said that. They're in Tacoma. And so he's like, you should come. That way you'll have about 7 months. Nobody will know you're pregnant. You can figure out what you need to do. Whether it's if you want to give it up for adoption, if you want to keep it. But that way your father won't know what you're doing. The dad won't know. The father of the children won't either. It'll give you some time to just really figure out. So now she's excited because it's like, oh my gosh, this might really work out in my favor. So we switch to Jake's POV. They're throwing her a surprise going away party. So Rose has decided to take this route. So he's pulled up, he's checking himself to see if he looks good, and he's thinking like, oh my gosh, like, what is wrong with me? I'm not a teenager. Let me just go inside. He goes inside, he sees Richard. He can tell Richard is not happy. He's trying to put on, but it's just, he can see it. He's his honest friend, he sees it. Richard is not happy about this. Jake goes up to him and he's like, I just didn't think she would just leave. He's like, when she went off to school, it was like, okay, she's going off to school, but I knew she was coming back home. But for her to just move away to Seattle, it's just like, this is gonna be hard. And Jake tells him, listen, it's only 2 hours away. You can see each other often. I'm sure she'll come and visit. I'm sure she'll have you come and visit her. Richard acts like it's, so like, yeah, you're right, but he's still not settled about this. So when she comes in, they yell surprise. She's jumpy, but she's still jumpy even afterwards. She's acting odd. Jake is noticing this. He's not going to say anything to her in front of everyone, but he waits until he has an opportunity to speak with her in the kitchen. And he asks her, he's like, because you're just kind of being out of character, like, what's going on? You know? And she says, I'm adult now, I just need to live my life. And I really need to start doing that. And she seemed it's like something familiar with the way she looked at him, but he didn't know where that came from, you know? I'm like, yeah, it's deja vu. But anyway, they're talking and he grabs her shoulders. We switch back to Rose. She pretty much has everything in her vehicle. She doesn't have a lot because when she left from college, she purged a lot of stuff. So all the main stuff, like the furniture stuff, she ordered that online. That's going to be there when she gets there. So it's just some boxes that she has to load up. So Marley's coming with her. I think I'm thinking about Molly from Insecure. I think that's what it was. So I keep saying Molly and it's Marley. Anyway, so they get to Seattle. Marley helps her put up some stuff, bookcases and stuff like that. And Marley's like, you know what? This is good for you. This is a new start. It's a new beginning. She's like, at least now you don't have to worry about people being upset because you're your father's daughter and that he gave you that great route. This is good for you. And Marley even says, because him giving you that, he should have known that was kind of putting a target on you. And I do agree with Marley. It definitely would have done that. So next day she goes into work and she's at the new office and Elliot's there. So Elliot's her boss. He's higher up, I think, than Ollie. She's never liked Elliot. He gives her creepy vibes. She can tell he probably likes her, but he never says anything. He does stuff, like he does just enough to where you can't really call him out for it, but she knows there's an underlying thing that's going on there with him. So come to find out, he's going to head up this new Seattle office, not Ollie. Now, this is where I have a problem. I want to know why the hell Ollie didn't tell her that. You're going to tell me Ollie didn't know. So maybe they're not as cool as they think. But bitch, if you just done told somebody all your goddamn business, I think you should be at least halfway decently close. So you done told this man your business. He knows why you're going. He also knows that you don't like Elliot. He knows this. And he doesn't fucking tell you that Elliot is the one that's going instead of him. That's kind of, I don't know, that seems kind of odd to me. It more so feels like Ollie was trying to get her ass out of there. That's what I think it is. I could be wrong, but that's what I think it is. Because I was like, that's just that's too shady. Later on that day, she winds up running smack dab into Elliot, and the shit out of her purse falls out, Guess what? He sees the prenatal vitamins. So he, of course, asks her, "Are you pregnant?" She says yes. She's like, "But you can't tell anybody." She's like, "My father doesn't know. No one knows." And he was like, "Oh, I won't say anything." But then he tells her, like, he's like, "Is the father in the picture?" And she's like, "No." And he's like, "Well, I'd be more than willing to marry you. And I would say the kid was mine. We could get married after the child's born if you want." And I'm just kind of like, that's a hell of a statement for you to say to somebody that, you know, you don't fully know like that. Then again, I felt like, let me just go back a little bit with Ollie. I didn't feel like she should have told Ollie all her fucking business either. But I do have to remember she's a jit. She's like 21, 22. But I was like, you shouldn't be telling him everything either. But anyway, I digress. So in her mind, she's thinking like, okay, if this was 100 years ago and there was this shame attached to it, then yeah, I might consider him. But that's not what it is. So, you know, that's not an option. Thanksgiving rolls around. So it's been about 3 months and she's been gone. Rose has not come back once to visit home. Richard, you know, he talks to her almost every day, but she is not coming around. And so Richard is fed up. He is not about to let a freaking holiday go by where he doesn't see his daughter. So he has ordered catered food in Seattle. They'll pick it up on the way. And he had Jake come with him. Jake tried to talk him out of it. He's like, "Nope, we're going." And so they head up there. They get up to her place. Of course, the knock on the door, there's a look of panic on her face. Jake sees it. I think Richard sees it too, but Richard, I think, is kind of maybe one of those people, he wants what he wants. So he wants to spend the time with his daughter. So he's going to do it, whether it's what she really wants or not. Like, this isn't, I think it's more so what Richard wants. So he might not be paying as close attention as Jake is, but Jake is, infatuated with her. So he's going to pick up on stuff that the father isn't. So she's got on pajamas. The girl had told them that she had to work. That's why she wasn't coming home for Thanksgiving. She tells them, "Oh, we just got done early." But Jake knows. He's like, "This is just lying." So they sit down. She goes, gets put on some other clothes, but it's loose fitting. Jake notices it. He's like, something's up with her. The dad, when he hugged her, he had said, "Oh, looks like you put on some weight." And that's it, right? He just goes on about his business. So he's pouring wine. He wants her to drink wine. She says, "No, thank you." And the dad's like, "Oh, come on, just have a glass." And again, she's like, "I don't want it." And Jake was like, "Hey, if she doesn't want it, let it be." So she tells Jake, "I will get you a glass." She goes and gets Jake a glass. When she reaches up, Jake sees that bump. He knows that's a pregnancy bump. And he could tell she's about 3 or 4 months along based on that bump. So dad goes to the restroom. He says to her, "Are you going to tell him?" And she's like, "What do you mean? You're going to tell your father that you're pregnant, right?" And she looks like, oh my gosh. So she agrees. She's going to tell him. She tells Jake, the father doesn't know. He's not in the picture. She's like, "Dad's going to kill me. But he's like, "You can't keep this secret from him. And your dad loves you know, and whatever, you'll deal with it together. Your father's not going to disown you because you're pregnant." They get through the dinner. Rose tells her dad, and before she can get it out, she's worked up. She starts crying, and she says she's pregnant. And her dad's like, "You're what?" And she says, "I'm pregnant. I know you're disappointed," but her dad just hugged her. He's like, "I love you. I'm not disappointed in you." He's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to be a grandpa." He was excited. He told her, "You're an adult. If this is what you want to do, I'll support you. You know, Jake can be your doctor." And at first she was like, "No," but Richard kept on. He's like, "No, he's the best. You need the best. I trust him," and all this type of stuff. So Jake is going to be her doctor. She's moving back to Tacoma. She didn't tell them about Elliot and his proposal and crap. She left that alone. She didn't need her dad being any more, overprotective than what he already was. So they get back in town. Rose has her first appointment with Jake. They're gonna do ultrasound. We found out the girl is having triplets. She's like, oh my gosh, I can't even take care of one baby. How am I gonna take care of three? How am I gonna do this? And of course, Jake is like, your dad's here. I'm here. You know, I'll be here every step of the way. He tells her, when he's talking to her, he winds up saying sweetheart, and he winds up kissing her on the top of her head. He didn't mean to say sweetheart and do the kiss on top of the head, but it was like natural to him. So they're standing there just kind of looking at each other, and then guess what? They wind up kissing again. So Rose, of course, is all into this kiss. She's ready to fuck like right now. But he tears himself away from her, and she says to him, like, we can't keep acting like there's not an attraction here, But she also knows how pain this will be on his part, him feeling as if he's betraying his best friend, Richard. So she said, we're attracted to each other. We just can't do anything about it because of my father, and we're just going to have to leave it at that. And he said, okay. So he left. She cried a little bit, got herself together the best she could, and then she went out to the front desk. So she had to sign some stuff. Cecilia was giving her major attitude. And she, of course, was like, well, wondering where this was coming from. So she left. She went to see Marley because she wasn't quite ready to go home yet. Marley was helping with the kids with art. Afterwards, they had lunch. She told Marley about the triplets. And Marley was like, how awesome it was. And she's like, I know it's scary. She's like, well, maybe I don't, but we're here for you. Your dad's here. I'm here. We're going to help you. And she told her if she wanted to get some experience, she could start coming by helping volunteering a couple times a week to get some experience with kids. So she's going to do that. We switch back to Jake, and he has offered himself up to help her with breathing classes. So anything she needs, he does it. He has her come once a week since she's having triplets. I don't think it's about that, but that's what he tells her. And all of this is just making him fall further and further in love with the girl. Cecilia notices it. She says something to him about it. He tells her basically, you don't know what you're talking about. That's my friend's daughter. He couldn't survive if something happened between us. She doesn't buy it, but the way she comes across, the way she, I don't know, the way she comes at him is very much like a jealous woman. It's not out of concern. It's more so like someone has now gotten your attention, and I have not seen someone get your attention. And now it's happening, and I don't like it, and we're going to shut it down. You know, that's what it's turning into. I could understand her saying, you know, I don't know. It just comes across that way. We switch back to Rose. She goes in for an appointment. She's further down the road. She's not far away from being due. And when she comes in, Cecilia says to her, can I talk to you for a minute? And she tells her what he's doing for you, he doesn't do for any other patient. You're monopolizing his time. He has other patients he needs to be concerned about. And she says he's doing this because you're his best friend's daughter, but that's not really fair to all the other patients. So now, of course, Rose feels awful, and she's like, I hadn't thought about it like that. In her head, she was just thinking she was enjoying the time with him. She never thought about it being an issue for him with his personal or work life. So she then goes in to see him, and she tells him Marley's going to take her to her breathing classes from now on. Now, she ain't even checked with fucking Marley yet. But she had to, she was trying to put some type of distance since now she feels like she's a problem. Which she is a problem, but for other reasons. Oh my gosh. So he looks sad, of course, and then he says, and she also said, maybe I should only come in once or twice a month. He's like, I'm just really concerned about the babies and their health. And he says, well, can I at least call you every day to check on your vitals? And she jumps at that. And she's like, yes. I'm like, oh my gosh. So now, guess what's happening? He calls every day to check on vitals, but guess how long they're on the phone? They're on the phone for over an hour every day. So nothing has really stopped with the closeness. But again, they want each other. That's it. So on this one particular night, they're on. He's calling her. It's a little later than normal, and he tells her he's late because he wound up staying back talking to Derek about his womanizing. I guess it's starting to affect his work. I don't know. Hopefully it is, because other than that, I don't really see where he has really a right to really talk to him about that. Well, anyway, while she's on the phone, she screams. Guess what? Her water broke. Jake, of course, is headed over there to get her. He keeps her on the phone the whole way until he gets her to the house. He gets her to the hospital. He stays with her the whole time. He's the OBGYN, so he was going to deliver the babies anyway, even though there's a personal attachment, and technically he shouldn't be doing this. But he just couldn't bear the thought of not being there for her and those babies. So Marley shows up because she had texted Marley while she was in the car. And he, of course, had never seen Marley. So he's like, who is this? And she's like, it's my best friend. And he's like, oh, okay. So the first one comes out. It's good. The second one, he had to reach in and turn it. The third one popped out. So we got 3 babies, 2 boys and a girl. She named the girl Victoria, the oldest boy Tyler, and then she named the youngest boy Jake. He, of course, is like, are you sure? And she's like, you've been so great with me. You know, I can't name him after my dad because I can't imagine me yelling at a little Richard around the house. So her father eventually comes. She's in the hospital for a few days. He comes and visit when he can. Jake does. And of course, uh, he also helped finish the nursery with Richard before she got home. He made sure that was all set up for her. And so she gets home. She's really happy because, first of all, the nursery wasn't done and now it is. It's fully stocked. It's amazing. She's so happy about this. And Jake feels a little torn because now he feels like, okay, I probably need to let her go a little bit, let her be with her family. He feels like he's being ripped apart from them. I'm like, yeah, I wonder why. That was just very bold to name your child. I'm sorry. That's bold as hell. When you claim you don't want him to know, she has no intentions of telling him, which I think is a problem. That's a real big problem that you did this to him. I don't think that that's okay on any level. I think it's fucked up. And then you do this type of stuff. You want to name the baby. I'm done. It's been a few weeks, but she's not ready to go back to work yet. She's like, they're not ready to go to anybody's daycare or babysitter. She needs more time, but she's also incredibly frazzled. 2 of the kids just want to play all day and can't be settled down. The other one um, is kind of, pretty, kind of laid back, a chill baby. So Marley's busy, her dad's busy, and she's by herself. But she calls Jake. And he, of course, is like, willing to come over. And she's like, I can't take advantage of you. So why the fuck did you call? That's my thing. Um, he, of course, comes over, tells her, take a nap. I got it. So she's like, I can't actually do that. He's like, you're not asking me. I'm telling you what I'm going to do. Go take a nap. I'll take care of them. She winds up sleeping for like 3 hours. And she goes to sleep, drifting, thinking about fucking him. That's what's funny. She wakes up. She feels refreshed. She goes in there. Kids are fine. They're asleep. He puts Victoria down, and she said something about, thank you so much for helping. And then she kissed him. And then she begged him. She's like, I need you like I need you inside of me. And he's like, we can't do this. And she's like, please, I need it. And that's all it took. He took her in the room. They're kissing. He takes off her pants. He starts fingering her, makes her come um, like that while he's kissing her. So then she's like, I need you inside of me like now. So he has her get on top, and they fuck that way. And she comes again. And afterwards, they have the conversation like, we can't do this again. This will hurt Richard. And I'm like, listen, y'all have already done it. I mean, I don't know what else to tell y'all. Y'all have already done it. and you fucked again raw. Like, what are we doing? I'm like, this man is a whole ass OBGYN, and you keep fucking this girl raw. Clearly, she's fertile. Like, I know he doesn't know the first time, but that's crazy that you did it with a stranger anyway, like that. But now you're doing. I'm like, I can't, I can't. So she, of course, is hoping. No, she's afraid that he's gonna wind up finding somebody else. He's afraid she's gonna find somebody else. It's just a whole fucking mess. But they keep saying they can't be together, but they're already acting like a family. Like they're already doing it, kind of, you know? Marley comes over to just kind of, this is further down the road, to just kind of help her. Like, listen, go out, have yourself a good time. So she meets up with Ollie. And based upon this conversation, I'm like, they couldn't have been too good of a friends because he didn't even know she had triplets. He just thought she had a baby. So clearly he didn't come around afterwards or whatever. So they, I guess, maybe that's why he didn't say nothing to her because really they're not really that close. Doesn't appear to be. So she tells him more of her business. She says they slept together again. And, she still hung up on him. Ollie's like, maybe you just need to give him a chance. He clearly wants to be with you. He wants to be a part of your life with the kids. Like, I don't get it. He's like, I don't understand. Well, she tells him the reason she won't tell him is because she overheard him a year ago tell her dad that he wasn't cut out for being a family man. And Ollie's like, people change, situations change. And it's not like he doesn't know what he's getting into. He knows you have the babies and he still wants to be there. It's a difference in someone walking into a situation and not knowing, or someone being with someone and then they get pregnant and it's not what they want, X, Y, and Z. That's different. He knows what this is. So then she tells him that no, Ollie tells her, Elliot gave me this to give to you. So he gives her the envelope. It's a gift card to some baby store and it says my offer still stands. So he, of course, is like, what's that about? And she says, well, he offered to marry me when he found out I was pregnant. He saw my prenatal vitamins. And so Ollie was like, oh, he's just trying to advance his career. Everything he does, there's an agenda attached to it. You know? Um, what better way than to woo the VP's daughter and marry her? I mean, just think about it. And she's like, yeah, I guess that would be why he keeps coming on so strong and all that type of stuff. So she also says she's gonna wind up. What she wants to do is kind of take a couple years off from work. She needs to talk to her dad because she is gonna need his help financially. The kids are just too small. She's not able to do it right now. So she wants to be a stay-at-home mom for a few years. Again, the actual fucking father is a goddamn OBGYN and he's well off. So again, it's like ding 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 ding. So then our boy Jake is at his office. He gets a call from Rose. She's a little frazzled. Victoria's got a rash on her. So she's been Googling and it just made it worse for her thought process. So he's like, no problem, I'll come over. So he comes over. No, before he leaves, he goes and asks Derek, how's your afternoon looking? And he's like, oh, I'm open. He's like, well, can you take some of my patients for the afternoon? He says, sure. Then Cecilia comes walking her ass up and she stomps and she's like, you're throwing off responsibilities just to go help Rose. That's not okay. That's not fair to us and all this type of stuff. Now, my thing is the only person who can say this is Derek because he is putting his work off on Derek, right? Derek is the one that's going to have to see these patients. What does this affect the head nurse? Bitch, you gonna see these people regardless whether they're in there with Jake or if they're in there with Derek. So again, it doesn't come across as being genuine concern. It really feels more so like that jealousy thing. Now, what Derek did say to him, because he wound up snapping at Cecilia and was like, it's none of your business, because Cecilia even made the comment, those aren't your babies. And that hurt him. And so that's when Derek kind of told him, kind of pulled him aside, and he's like, listen. He's like, if you want to be with the girl, be with the woman, go and do it. Just fucking do it. He's like, what Cecilia's saying isn't fully wrong. It is now affecting your work life because now you are throwing responsibilities off on to me. He was like, now you say a lot about with me with my women, but I have not ever had it affect my work in this building. And that's when Jake goes, oops. Yeah, that judginess, right? Of he's living this type of life and that's not good. No, 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 no. But guess what? The shit ain't affecting his fucking work. But now you're putting off patients. They didn't come to see Derek, bitch. They came to see you. They came to see you. So you know what you should have had? If you wanted to work that bitch into your schedule, you could have worked her in. But she gonna have to haul her ass down to that fucking, office to get the child checked out. That's what should have happened. Not you throwing off the responsibility onto Derek. Now he can handle it, but he also, I like that he was able to point it out to him. Kind of look at what you're doing. You're making your life revolve around this person. You need to make a decision about something because this is crazy. Now he still leaves. He don't stay. But when he leaves, he's thinking, you know what, maybe I really do need to talk to Richard and be honest because I really want to be with her. I want a life with her. And because they went and he checked the baby out. The baby's all right. And they took a walk in the park, and it was very much like a family. It felt like a complete family. So after they come back from the walk, he tells her to take a shower, take a nap, and she's considering telling him that the babies are his. Um, but she's not 100% sure she wants to do it. And this is why I'm a little upset with her because, yes, he said that to you. Yes, you overheard that. Let's be correct. You overheard a conversation. You didn't hear the whole conversation. You heard a piece of a conversation. Okay? But what you've seen from this man is that he wants to be around your children. He wants to be a part of your life. That's what he's giving you with his actions. So the fact that you're still withholding this information from him, it just reeks of pure selfishness because you're not ready to face the consequences of what you really did. And that's why Rose ain't shit. She comes from the shower. They, of course, wind up kissing each other. The kids are down. And he tells her, like, I'll always be here for you and the babies. And then, of course, he's like, I'm not going to fuck you in the kitchen. Because they had wound up eating and she had made some food. They ate in the kitchen. And he's like, I'm going to make love to you. So he takes her up to her room. And he has her strip for him, and he eats her pussy, makes her come. Girls on cloud 9. So then he tells her turn around, gives her a nice hard fuck from behind. She went crazy afterwards. They collapsed on the bed, and he was like, we got to stop fighting this. Like, clearly we want this. He says we shouldn't say anything to your father until, we're like on solid ground or whatever. This bitch took it as, yeah, let's just keep it casual. What? Where did you think that meant? What? Like, but that's how she took it. She's like, there's no reason to hurt him. We're just kind of doing this. You're not with anyone. My hormones are driving me crazy. So we're just basically scratching each other's itches, basically. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. It's just because I mean, even with what he said, he could have said a little bit more. But again, both are being so not want to say certain things, not want to appear a certain way, right? And they keep making this shit more and more difficult. They give the kids a bath. They hear the dad, Richard, come in while they're giving the kids a bath. He goes straight to the his den. Um, he doesn't seem to be helping her at all. Now, I will say this. Yes, she did it to herself. But Richard told her, you come back, I'll help you. He made it appear like he was going to really be helping her. So that's where I'm like, well, you're a little shitty because you're not doing it. I think he just didn't want to be in the house alone. And that's why he wanted her back. But he clearly has, no type of interest in really helping her. I think he probably feels like financially I help you, that is me helping you. So maybe I'm gonna go back on my. I'm not gonna be as mad as Richard because let's be honest, it takes fucking money with children, right? So he could always hire her someone for her to have extra help. So he's helping. It's just not the way she thought it was going to be. Let me say it that way. It's not as hands on. But fuck that. It's the most important thing is giving you money, right? So that you don't have to worry about that problem and you really can just focus on the three kids. That's not an option for a lot of people. So I'm like, I'll back off for Richard. I was kind of on it, but as I said it, I was like, you know what? He's providing financially, you know? Elliot knocks on the door. She goes to the door. He has some flowers for her. He said, "Oh, I heard you had the babies and all this type of stuff." And he's just a total kiss up. But Richard's falling for it because he's saying all these great things about Rose, but he don't even know Rose, right? But that's not the point. The point is, I'm trying to impress your father. So however I got to do it, I'm gonna do it. So Jake can hear what's going on because of where the kid's room is located. So Jake winds up coming down because, the dad's like, oh, we're about to have dinner. Oh, stay. So Jake winds up coming down with the kid, like one of them, and he, is like, oh, did you want to hold the child? And the guy's like, no. And he's like, well, why wouldn't you want to hold the child? And oh girl, Rose is like, they're a package deal, like it's me and my kids. It's not just me. And so then the baby, one of them, I think it was Tyler, had pooped. And he's like, do you want to change the diaper? You want to get started on that experience? And he's like, no, 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 no. But I thought that was a clear cut. That was smart on Jake's part. Let's expose this rat for what he is. Because Rose was taking too much time. Fuck all that. Jake knew how to get that man in, to expose him fast. So I loved it. So later on, Jake comes downstairs. Well, no, it's not that far later, but like a little bit later, Jake comes back downstairs to the washroom to throw in some laundry. And old girl comes in the laundry room, Rose, and she's telling him like, I could have handled that. And he's like, yeah, but it was fun for me to do it. So so anyway, Jake put her on the washer and fingered her, made her come because the vibration of the washer, and then fingering her, she came super hard. And then he's like, nah, I'm gonna claim you. So she's getting banged by Jake on the washing machine. They both come. They're still, you know, he's still inside of her. Door flies open. It's fucking Richard. He's like, he thought he heard something. That's why he came in here. And he just has this furious shock look on his face. He slams the door. Jake is like, I'll go talk to him. I'll deal with it. She's like, no, you shouldn't have to deal with this by yourself. It's both of us. I'll go talk to him. And Richard is furious with Jake. He's like, you knew Rose was off limits. Why couldn't you control yourself? And Jake kept saying it just happened. But again, tell the fucking truth. Say, I love her. Tell the truth. Don't just say it happened, because now it just sounds like she was just some pussy that you fell into. Richard tells him to get out. He's like, you were never my friend. I never want to see you again. Rose, of course, is crying and, all this type of stuff. But I'm like, why are we shocked? Why did y'all keep acting like y'all had to fuck in this damn house? The one person you don't want to know, you're going to fuck in his house and you're going to do it while he's there. That's just plain irresponsible. To me, you wanted to get caught because you're not going to tell me that that your brain couldn't process that shit. You know, you knew what you were doing. It's like, I can't feel sorry for you. And I get why Richard is mad because y'all doing all this shit behind his back instead of being honest. So it's been over a week. She still talks to Jake every day on the phone, but she hasn't seen him. He hasn't been around the kids, so this has been excruciating for him as well. The father, Richard, he's been kind of avoiding her, so she's decided, I'm gonna fix this shit. We're gonna have a nice dinner, nice conversation. So she sneaks Marley in to come and watch the babies, and then she has her dad. She kind of fix all his favorites and shit. And then she has Jake walk in through the door. He, of course, is like, oh no, and she's like, no, we're going to sit down and we're going to have a nice fucking dinner. So they kind of were poking at their food at first, but then she started talking about the babies and that loosened them both up. Jake was always willing to talk. So it really was about loosening up Richard. But nothing was never dealt with in this conversation. They just were talking nicely about the kids. That's it. The dad went to his den, and then Jake and Rose go upstairs so he can see the babies. And then while they're in there, the kids, they fall asleep, and Marley, she left out. She done her job, and she starts up again. I want you inside me. That's what old girl says to him. But this time she wanted to suck him off, so they go in her room and she sucks him off, but he didn't let her finish because he's like, I want to fuck you. So then they go ahead, they have a good fuck. He comes in her again, and I'm like, God dang, it's third time. Well, the second time, well, maybe second or third time for him. He knows. So afterwards, he was like ready to ask her to marry him, but he didn't. And I'm still shocked that y'all keep fucking in this man's house. Like, so she asked him, to get her robe out the closet. He goes to get the robe, but guess what he sees? The freaking costume, the cat suit, and the mask. And he realizes that night, while the woman smelled familiar because it was Rose's perfume. And so she explains to him, you know, she wanted it. She just wanted one night with him. She had been in love with him for forever, and she just wanted one night with him. And she hadn't been with anybody else. She didn't want anybody else. She told him everything about how she compared every guy to him and all this type of stuff. And then he is vibrating. He's so pissed off. And he's like, just answer this question. Are they my babies? So she's crying, but she admits that those are his babies. And he, of course, is like, how could you do this to me? How could you not tell me? He's like, I was helping you. Like, were you just taking advantage like me? Like, what? I don't get it. So she tells him about the conversation that she heard a year ago, that he didn't want a family. And he said, why didn't you just ask me? I would have told you why I said that. I was married before. My wife got pregnant. She miscarried. I wasn't there for her. I thought my punishment was not having a family. Then she felt stupid. And she was like, I didn't know. And he's like, yeah, you should have asked. He's like, I need space. And she's like, what do you mean? He's like, space. I need space. And so he left. She broke down. But I don't feel sorry for her because no part of him ever showed you that he didn't want those children. No part. You had this fucking thought in your head and you got stuck on that and you refused to see anything that was actually happening. You know, he should have been with those fucking babies every day. You denied him that. And I don't know. That to me is very close to being unforgivable. That's time he can't get back. You know, he doesn't get that time back. Now, he spent a lot of time with them, but at the same time, it would have been better. That's even more help that you could have had. It shouldn't have fallen on your fucking father, the financial responsibility, because they have a father who would have taken care of them. So she was just stupid to me. Absolutely stupid. So Jake goes home. He's upset at first, but you know what? He calmed himself down. The truth was, he still loved her. He still wants to be with her. And those are his babies. They can be the family that he wanted all along. And so he goes back over there. He climbs up a tree because he didn't want to ring the bell and wake up Richard or the babies. And so he climbs up a tree and he tells her, you know, how he wants to marry her, you know, be a family, all this great stuff. And then they have another great fuck. So then afterwards, they express all their love and affection for one another. We fast forward, they get married. They're gonna have a short honeymoon because they don't want to be away from the kids for too long. Richard is now fine with him. He's forgiven him. You know, I think again it was just a matter of him understanding and knowing that this man truly loved his daughter. And like he would do anything for her. He was gonna be her protector. He would do anything for her. Just like Richard would, except for help would take care of them babies. But I think once he knew that, he wasn't mad about it. Because it's not like Jake's a bad guy. This is a really good guy, you know? So they've gotten married and they're about to go off to the cabin in the woods. And he said to her, you know, I wish you would have packed the cat suit. And she said, already packed. And that's how it ends. What did you guys think of this book, Dr. Daddy? I mean, I liked it. It's just certain parts infuriated me. Just certain parts pissed me off. I just felt like she could have given. I don't know. It's just it's a true book of why communication is so freaking important, because a lot of pain and stuff could have been avoided if people had have been honest. If he would have been honest about how he loved her, she was honest that she loved him. I think it would have been kind of fun if he knew it was her and they carried on, right? Maybe held off on telling the dad until they knew it was what it was. But I would have wanted him to know a little bit sooner and watched how it came into how everything unfolded. So, but I did like it. Let me know what you guys think. Drop down in the comment section and let me know. If you have any suggestions, drop those down as well. I will eventually get to them. I do promise. Um, if you are in the market for a beautiful notebook or journal, we do have those available, and those links are going to be available down below in the description section. Make sure you like and subscribe, and share. And just a little note, because I had someone in the comments, they want me to read the whole book. Well, I don't read the whole books because those are copyright issues, so I don't do that. This is just a fun recap and review channel, guys. That's it. I can't read the whole book. Just to let you know, I really do appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Always Reading Book Club.